change. Ain't no harm by the things we do or the trouble that we get into. Other than a wild hair once in a while, we can't help it, it's just our style. Good old boys is all we'll ever be. I got an alimony payment at 6 weeks.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
How are you today?
Very good, thank
Good,
you. There
good.
you go.
There we go. You got that now?
Welcome to the Wade and Carter program. We're here at South Texas TV Studios. Very excited to be here. Thanks to Thrive Fuel and the folks at South Texas TV on the Roku app. Welcome our listeners on Magic 95.9 FM and all of you on Facebook. The Faithful Five, we call you. My mom, my Aunt Betty, our wives.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
Junior, his wife.
Tell you what, if all we had listening every day was the people who won at Palace Bingo last night, we'd have a pretty good program.
We would have a pretty good crowd.
Wow. What'd you count, like 6?
I think 6 of the 10 games were won by Wade and Carter
Faithful
listeners, faithful devotees, whatever you want to call them. Call them. We're appreciative of every single one of you. But, 6 of 10. Although one of those games, I think, split 26 ways.
Somebody got like $5. You heard people just go, and I don't know how that happens.
Because they were all waiting for 070. It was one of those games where the only O called was 070, and all of a sudden it was bingo, 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 bingo.
Really was.
Everybody's arms went up. That was it. Yeah, they were all waiting on that one. Junior says Wade and Carter zombies. Probably a better description.
Donnie even had a bingo last night. She was pretty fired up.
I don't want to. Well, I mean, the government already took their taxes, so you don't have to claim the winnings. But Stephanie Conti split a $500 pot. I think Gil Garcia won the other $500 one, didn't he?
Yes.
I think his wife won some money. That whole other table.
They told me when I walked in, they said, we're over here at the Mexican table. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I think 4 of the 6 Wade and Carter winners came from that table.
They did. It was Mexican night at Wade and Carter.
We had a fun night.
They did great.
Got told to be quiet a couple of times.
Yeah,
it's like
Junior,
being back in
folks,
school.
Junior. We love Junior. Junior was out of control.
A little bit. Junior won 15-25. Only because Junior was a 3-time winner in that game on his electronic bingo machine.
Yeah.
He bingoed 3 times himself to help split that 26-person or winner pot.
Yeah, you were supposed to get $5.25 each.
So,
Junior won 3 times.
Hey, whatever works, right?
There you go. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. It's 75 degrees and sunny in Victoria. Heading to a high today of 99, which you know it's going to be over 100. Who are we kidding?
Yeah. My car registered 103 on that, internal, external thermometer, and I don't think I've ever seen it ever that high.
Yep.
But
climate change, man.
Yeah. Dog Days of Summer are here, and their Dog Days of Summer sale going on at AT Deerland Feed, Hay, and Ranch Services are stopping by. They've got everything you need for your pets to help them beat the heat, stay cool, feed them, give them all the nutrition they want, keep them looking and smelling good. Head over to AT Deerland Hay, Feed, and Ranch Services today to get all that stuff. Speaking of climate change, I this caught me, and I hadn't seen this term used before. But I think we're going to start seeing it more given the source of this. This is The Guardian, English media outlet. After hottest day ever, researchers say global heating may mean future of crop failures on land and silent dying in the oceans. So we went from an ice age, pending ice age in the 70s, to global warming, to climate change, and now because the world is stuck in, the northern hemisphere is stuck in what we used to refer to as summer.
Right.
And it's now global heating.
It is interesting that there's always, you had the oil crisis in the 70s. You had arguably the era of the terrorists was in the 80s. That's when you had a lot of the people blowing things up, walking in with, the vests. That was when you had more suicide bombers and stuff on the Clinton watch.
Scott Tomko says we left out acid rain.
You had acid rain.
That was probably the one man-made
remember
thing
when
that we actually...
remember when AIDS mattered? People cared about AIDS. It was a big deal. AIDS was big. I guess now there's homosexuality and dirty needle use just isn't an issue anymore, so we don't hear about AIDS anymore. Now,
not sure how that ties to the climate.
No, but I mean, no. It's the manufactured
scaring of,
dilemma of the era, so that the Dems can solve the problem.
Well, and then listen to this. Listen to the caption on the photo that accompanies this story. A stag takes a drink at Dulman Wildlife Reserve in Münsterland, Germany.
That's not a guy. That's a deer.
Yeah. On a sweltering day this summer.
Sweltering.
So it has a photograph. It has a photo credit, but there's no date tag on it.
Right.
We don't know that was actually on a sweltering day this summer. That photo could have been taken anywhere because there's no timestamp on it.
Sure. Could have been years ago.
Successive heat waves threaten nature's ability to provide us with food, say researchers. But at the same time, they tell you there's enough food to feed every single person on this earth, but it goes to waste.
Right.
See, you've got to wade through the BS. Because on one hand, they tell you there's plenty of food for everybody on earth. If grocery stores would stop throwing out all that food, we could feed everybody.
True story.
And this is because the government now tells them, well, you've got to have a spoiling date. You've got to have a best before date. You've got to have a date on there where you can't sell it past. Because somewhere along the way, one person might have got sick from something, and it's probably because it was old and bad, so let's put dates on stuff. Never used to throw that stuff out.
If it wasn't green, fry it.
Exactly.
If it wasn't
if it
gray,
has mold on it, throw it away.
Yeah, if it wasn't gray, grill it. If it wasn't green, then if it turned green, then just fry it.
But now, and they tell. I mean, the only thing. Milk starts turning sour, you just dump it.
Yep. And it lasts way past the date.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you don't open it and close it a lot. I mean, milk's the good one. You have to give it the old smell test.
Sure. There's Bobby Leister, Matt Boucher, Scott Tomko. You do your roll call yet?
I have not.
You can. We got a big show today. We're excited. We're going to have Andy Rokovich and Emmett Alvarez in studio to talk about the upcoming school board replacement selection. I didn't know. I thought there was an election. It's not actually. It's going to be a selection.
Yeah, they will select who they want to represent to serve out Estela de los Santos's remaining term.
Who I will miss. Nice lady.
Lisa Poole checking in.
Lisa was there last night.
Lisa was there last night playing the wrong bingo cards most of the night, apparently.
Lisa just does Lisa things, Like everybody else is playing the brown card. She had the pink one.
Mark Kurtz stopped by. Will Vincent, good morning. Junior Samples. James Kurth. Greg Garcia. Stephanie Conti, big winner. Diane Tippett. Ricky King. Linda Chris says, hey, I did my best to control him last night.
She did a nice job.
Yep.
She's a nice lady.
And at some point, she just throws her hands up and says, whatever. She got to that point pretty quickly last night. There's Janie Alvarez checking in. Patricia Nagel, good morning. Scott Tomko, Roy Gutierrez.
And Roy Gutierrez.
Greg Garcia says liberal media had another meeting to come up with another stupid catchphrase.
Probably.
Yeah, no, exactly. Roy Gutierrez says it's been replaced with monkeypox. I think he's referring to where AIDS went.
It's true, though, right? It's always
there's always some
the oh my
scare
of the moment.
Yeah. Matt Boucher with a U.S. throws away 40% of food. That's just.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. There'll be stuff sitting in my fridge for a week, and if it's not moldy, smells bad, I will reheat it and eat it. Leftovers.
I believe that. Once it's cooked, it's good for another week.
At least. And they tell you, leftovers need to be thrown out after 3 days.
No, that's
bull
dumb.
crap.
That's dumb.
The government leads to the waste so that they can justify spending money on food programs and other things.
Right. We had to throw away all that milk.
They perpetuate some of this because some of their stupid rules and regulations.
True story.
It's just ridiculous.
Give a quick shout out to the entire crowd from Greeks 205 last night. The entire staff, Derek Jameson, a bunch of folks, ended up at
they weren't working last night?
The after party. They came in after work at the after party for Wade and Carter night at Palace Bingo and said to tell you hi and said they would be checking in. We were big.
They won't be checking in.
Well, they probably check in later in the day.
Yeah, they'll watch it later in the day.
We were big with the Greeks 205 crowd, and that was nice. It was good to see those folks.
Monica Joe's checking in. Buddy Stavanoa, good morning. Tom Price. Matt Boucher says government wants you dependent on grocery stores.
True story.
We used to dig up potatoes out of like my mom and dad's.
Was this one of the Slovakias?
Yeah.
Or Russia?
My grandma's 2 gardens, and they would just sit in a cold room in the basement all winter. Never went bad. You find one that was sprouting little ears, you'd chuck it, right?
I was born a poor black child in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I asked Ash the other day, I said, what was it like for you in Canada? I mean, like, what were the black kids like in Canada? Because they weren't there because they were the children of slaves. Like here, everybody wants reparations.
Well, the ones, the Underground Railroad went to Eastern Canada, up into the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, and that area.
But more humorously, you did share with me that the only black kids you knew growing up were the children of
Calgary Stampeders players. Yep.
Canadian Football League players. Nice.
They
were actually kids of privilege.
In my elementary school, that was the case.
I can just hear Ash and his brother. Your dad sucks. You dropped that ball on Sunday?
No, they'd come to pick him up. That was cool. We get autographs and meet with them, and it was awesome. Al Burleson and Terry Irvin, awesome players.
There you go. Whatever those guys are now, we ought to get them on. If they're alive, we ought to get them on the radio.
I'm sure they are. Lisa Poole goes, after party? What after party? She wasn't invited. I guess she's wondering why she wasn't invited to an after party.
Well, it was just a quick.
It wasn't really an after party. It was
more of a quick brown bag flyby.
Yeah. Greg Garcia says government creates problems so that they can solve them and remain relevant. It's like breaking someone's leg so you can treat the leg.
True story on that.
Isn't it, though? Scott Snow, good morning. Have you noticed, and you were looking at an interesting story this morning. I'll get you to kind of weigh in on it a little bit. But have you noticed that Donald Trump is starting to talk a little bit more issues and policy rather than make it about
woe is me.
Woe is me, or the what's the word I'm looking for? More about policy and issues than the people in the race. It's not as personal. And I don't know if this is just a temporary diversion with him, but it's interesting because your story now kind of tries to, the one you saw this morning tries to bring the person back into it now that Donald Trump is actually attacking the things that Joe Biden has been completely inept at and what the Democrats are trying to do, right?
Well, it just says here this. Now, I got to give credit where it's due or not due. This is from MSNBC, so you know it's going to have a liberal slant. Once you accept that, then you can kind of dig through the facts. It says Donald Trump has been making ominous threats as he faces another indictment. Joe Scarborough said he doesn't seem to understand how much trouble he's facing. The former president boosted a threatening video from a MAGA account this week and gave a radio interview saying it would be dangerous to put him in jail for any of the crimes for which he's been formally accused. And the Morning Joe host said Trump was only making things worse for himself. I don't know if Donald Trump understands, Scarborough said. He's talking like a mobster. It would be a shame, dangerous for Jack Smith and his supporters. More dangerous now than in 20 or 16. He's just so stupid. He really is. He doesn't understand. He's going up against the feds, he says of Trump. Can't bluster and talk your way out of federal charges. I have to agree that Trump is like saying it'd be dumb to put me in jail. It'd be dangerous to put me in jail. They may do it. I think there's a chance they're going to put him in jail. I don't know for how long.
Well, he won't get pardoned by Joe Biden.
The only way would be if he agreed not to run. Boy, what a mess.
It is a mess. Joel Gomez checking in. The Iceman, good morning. Jonathan Williams. But now, now they're trying to make Donald Trump out to be a mobster.
Yeah.
The left is running scared because I think they're really worried that if Donald Trump gets acquitted on these charges, his status as a folklore hero, real time, will just go
propel him to the White House.
Yeah, no, and all the efforts that the Democrats have to try to sabotage. I got to thinking about this the other day with everything that went on. Whatever happened to just election day? Growing up, nobody had a problem showing up to the polls on election day. And don't get me wrong, I take advantage of early voting. It's nice and convenient. But my dad never missed an election that I can recall. And he still, I think, only votes on election day. But why was election day not good enough anymore?
Well, because you've got the pandemic, and you've got to have rules that were put in place for the pandemic that now, if you go back to normal, then you're discriminating against those who liked the rules put in place for the pandemic. You can't go back. You see James Kerr? Better bing, better bop.
Yeah. Ricky King says, let's look at all the free publicity he's getting.
True.
There's a true story on that. Lisa Poole says, you mean the pandemic.
The pandemic.
Early vote, Junior Samples, early voting is okay. Mail-in voting is the problem. And so is the ballot harvesting and all that stuff. I mean, there were things. And now, of course, conveniently, 2.5, 3 years later, the courts are now finding that, well, yeah, your attorney general shouldn't have been able to just circumvent your state legislators and changing rules. But, just don't do it again. That's what it's coming down to.
Yep.
All the things that everybody cried about as being illegal, and the left saying, oh, no, it's fine. You got to do it. You have to do it. It's a pandemic. It's unprecedented. Because that's what they did, right? Now they're being told, oh, don't do it again.
It's exactly
what it amounts
like
to.
When we gave up civil liberties post 9/11. Bush came in and said, well, we have to be able to monitor the phone calls of bad people. Bad people. Can we define bad people?
No, because there's been 278,000
right. Whoever we want to monitor
people
is the bad person.
Yeah.
Man, nobody gets upset about that because that was W. W did that. W was just as crooked as the rest of them.
James Kerr says Patriot Act mentality, exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
And now the other thing is some of these states are having problems undoing what the attorneys general did in allowing for broader mail-in voting and everything else.
Shouldn't be that hard, right? There's no
Shouldn't
reason.
be.
Just say we're not going to do that anymore. Drive-through voting. Would you like me to mark that for you? Speaking of drive-through voting, Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Let Allen be your go-to tow. You need to get towed somewhere? Call Allen. Steve Kidder said he wanted to be promoted like Allen's Record Service. He wanted to be Steve Kidder.
This doesn't work.
This doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, not at all. Makes it sound more like a snake.
Right? Well, he's an attorney. I mean, he may be our guy, but let me call it what you will, right?
Yeah, what? Always near the bottom 3 of least favorable attorneys.
Your sister's nice, but she's still a hooker. I mean, let's just get it out there. Allen's Record Service. Call
578-6300.
VCS Companies for all your communication needs.
The only
Chesnick
locally owned and
Furniture,
authorized AT&T retailer.
Chesnick. And Love, make your house a home. Chesnick, you just always do better at Chesnick.
Always do better.
116 West Juan Lynn, corner of Juan Lynn and Bridge for over 100 years.
Yeah, when you go buy your new Chesnick furniture, then you need something to accessorize it with. Stop by the Gray Barn Mercantile, right there, Airline and Laurent.
Get by Veracruz today. It's the last day of the week. It's the last day you've got till Monday. That doesn't intimidate folks to know that Saturday and Sunday you can't go if you want to. Today's the day to go. Get by there.
Did somebody show up? Did I see it?
Yes, Andy is out there. We're going to stick him in here. By the way, also very excited to welcome a new sponsor, the Chopping Block. Right there on North Navarro, just south of the Loop. How would you describe that? It's on the right by the Hampton Inn.
Yeah, just past the Hampton Inn, right? You get to the Loop, you've gone too far. Avis.
That's right. Avis
And
Carnival.
somebody told me it was a bank at one time. I don't remember it being a bank, but yeah, there's a little drive-through window, or there was a little drive-through window on the one side. So yeah, it makes
super
sense.
nice. They've got. They just do crazy.
Yeah, it's Dino Rib Day today.
Just big beef ribs, Wagyu beef ribs.
Succulent,
So they've got
juicy, moist
food trailer, moist, damp ribs.
cooked a nice medium-ish.
Our buddy Sean Neely out there manning the trailer. You know John from
Everybody
Chopping
knows
Block.
John.
Get by there.
Go see the John and Sean show.
And they do a great, you
You get a brisket from them, they'll trim it up for you too.
they do a hamburger patty that's really good. They do boudin that's really good. Fresh, homemade. We'll have more and more to tell you about the Chopping Block coming up. But they're not actually a sponsor until August the 1st. This is like bonus footage.
Time.
Yeah.
Greg Garcia says the Chopping Block is the mecca of meat.
They really do a nice job. And the other thing they've got in there is they've got a whole bunch of different brands of meat seasonings.
Rubs.
Meat
rubs.
Accoutrement for your meat. You can buy a cap.
It used to be Vaseline.
Stop it.
What else is going on in the world? Oh, the U.S. has no clue where this, what was the guy's name? Travis King? Is that his name?
I don't know.
Yeah. This is the Army private that just bolted
He was
into
a private?
North Korea.
Why didn't we just shoot that guy? Serious question.
He went AWOL. Then he was in custody, and as we were moving him around or something.
Oh, we got him back?
I think we were moving him, and he just ran.
Yeah. Should have
Escaped our custody.
Shoot him.
And now National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby says this is not a country known for its humane treatment of humans, Americans, or anyone else for that matter. Speaking about North Korea, I mean, you could probably make an argument about the U.S. in some cases.
Sure.
They don't know why he decided to run across the border. He's not in a position to have had really any sort of classified information that would benefit the North Koreans. He wasn't known to be a North Korean sympathizer.
How do you sympathize with that?
I don't know.
Did you see where the lady in Hoover, Alabama?
But they have no clue.
Alabama? They haven't decided yet. Ash and I told you from day one. Smell test. Not passing the smell test with this gal.
Nope.
Something's up. Something is up. We don't know what yet, but we will.
And we're finding out a little bit more. They have not been able to corroborate the child on the side of the road story. They have reviewed all of the interstate camera footage and surveillance footage and not found one trace of a kid.
So let's say she's lying. Let's just for a minute suppose that the woman's lying. She enlisted the assistance of her best friend to tell authorities, oh, yeah, I talked to her on the phone, and I could hear her talking to a child.
Never heard the child, though. That was part of it.
I would check her phone
get-go.
records, too, and see when those calls were made. You made a comment the other day. We were just cutting up, going through scenarios. She might have gotten a bad gummy at work. She stopped to buy some snacks.
And none of those snacks were found in her car.
No snacks in her car.
Or no, the snack. Wait.
No, her wallet was there. Her purse was there. Her phone was there. Nothing was stolen from the car.
I don't think the snacks were there, right?
No snacks.
No snacks.
She took the snacks. She was having the munchies. What do you think? Something just doesn't add up.
Because I would think if there was a child wandering on a busy interstate, there would have been a bunch of calls besides her call.
Around here, somebody would have hit it on their way to running into a building.
Probably. Or jumping the median.
Yeah.
Or getting stuck on the median.
We talked about that last night. That was topic at Palace Bingo. That's a good bingo.
I almost didn't make it there because some idiot in a little silver small four-door sedan decided on southbound Navarro right at the mall.
Did you lay it sideways?
By McDonald's, and I don't know if larger fat woman probably had to get to McDonald's. I'm on the median side lane, right? There's a car in front of me. There's a pickup truck in the middle lane. This lady goes from the middle lane and just all of a sudden, last minute, into the turn lane to the mall. Everybody's on their brakes, on their horn. She pulls a U-turn.
Tragic.
You know, U-turns by themselves aren't necessarily dangerous unless people are being idiots. But this lady was just a moron. And I was screaming bloody murder at her out the window because she just about caused a 4-car pileup.
And I've heard.
Just because she was in a rush to get her fat ass to McDonald's for a Big Mac.
There you have it. I've heard Ash when he's like going, "You moron, turn your headlights on." I've heard him do it.
Yeah, moron was not a word that left my lips.
Yeah, no.
Last night. It was almost like I had Tourette's.
You said there is a Tourette's.
That's what I've heard. If there isn't one, there's one coming.
Interesting.
Tourette's support group apparently forming here in Victoria.
What do you just get together and sit in a circle and cuss at each other?
I don't know. The punchlines they're too numerous.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here with you.
I don't think you'd get mad, would you? I don't know.
A little something for you from the Small World Department.
Okay.
Just sharing it. No judgment, just sharing it with you. Impeached Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton endangered a child abuse case being conducted by his own office after meeting privately with the man who was facing criminal charges. Second paragraph. The Houston Chronicle has obtained documents showing that Paxton last year took a meeting with Matthew Oker, a 46-year-old, this is how they describe him, a 46-year-old right-wing activist who had been accused of kicking and choking his disabled teen daughter.
This is a Houston Chronicle story?
Yeah, I just thought there's a lot of ways I would describe Matt Oker, one of them being friend. Find it interesting. He's a right-wing activist. I did not know that.
Wow, because they've got to put a political slant on it, right?
Right. Paxton's office acknowledges the meeting took place, although it claims the Attorney General had no idea that Oker, who attended the meeting without a lawyer, was facing criminal charges. However,
either your staffers are inept Because let's be honest, you're the attorney general. Your office prosecutes these cases, right?
Sure.
Ken Paxton doesn't walk into court in Victoria, Texas,
No.
to prosecute a case that the attorney general's office is involved in, child
Correct.
support, whatever, right? Typically, right? Ken Paxton isn't walking in and doing all these. He's too busy writing hundreds of
He's too busy trying not to get
lawsuits
arrested.
against the federal government. Well, that too. But you've got a pretty inept staff if they don't give you the background on somebody you're meeting with and wouldn't have gone through your own records as the first place to see if this is somebody that you're dealing with.
However, the Chronicle notes that other documents reveal that Oker communicated for at least a month with one of Paxton's closest advisors about his child abuse case before his face-to-face meeting with the state's top lawyer.
Which, again, goes back to ineptness out of his staff if they did not do any little level of research to discover that, hey, this is a guy that we've got a case against. We probably shouldn't meet with him.
Correct. And the reason you don't meet with him, after the meeting, Oker's lawyer tried unsuccessfely to use it to persuade a judge to toss the case.
I would
Against
probably be
his
court
client.
files, right?
Right.
According to the Houston Chronicle. Interesting that the Victoria Advocate didn't pick this story. They've had a hard-on for
he's
Matt
a
Oker a long
right-wing
time.
activist.
Linda Chris says more than half the U.S. population could be considered right-wing activists. The media would label half the population right-wing activists that voted for Donald Trump in 2020.
They do point out that Paxton's impeachment earlier this year had nothing to do with the meeting, and instead was about actions he allegedly took to abuse power to help a donor to his campaign.
Yeah.
I think Ken Paxton's dirty, but so many things in life come back to that scene with Donald Sutherland in the movie JFK, which was kind of an assemblage of conspiracy theories done by Oliver Stone. When the guy sits down, I guess it's Tom Hanks. I don't know who the guy is in the movie that's visiting with
I don't remember.
Donald Sutherland. He says, just tell me, who killed Kennedy? Was it the mob? Was it the mafia? Was it the CIA? Was it Cuba? And Sutherland said, when you get to this level, it becomes so blurry you just can't tell them apart. And I think that's where you're at with a lot of these things. Is it Joe Biden? Is it, last night it was said at the Palace Bingo Wade and Carter table that
Which table?
that Hunter's not taking advantage of Joe. Joe has taken advantage of Hunter. Joe's the one that used Hunter's addictions, ineptness, etc., for his benefit. He put Hunter in that position in Ukraine to be on the board to give 10% to the big guy. I believe that. I think
Yeah,
that's what happened.
but Hunter put himself in position for a lot of stuff too. He's not on some of these boards of some of these private capital firms that his buddies all started if his name isn't Hunter Biden, right?
I mean, I get
Because they
invited,
all had meetings with, he was the conduit for them to have meetings with Joe Biden as vice president.
no doubt. I
And-
get invited to functions because people know that I know you. They're like, invite Carter, maybe he'll bring Ash.
Bull crap.
Saying that's, but in the same breath that Hunter used his leverage to get a gig, it benefited Joe, and everybody wants to feel sorry for Joe, like Hunter's such a burden to bear. Biden's gotten rich off this deal.
Well, and that's the narrative that the Bidens want to push, right? Well, Hunter's a bad apple. We're doing our best. I love my son. I always love my son,
Right.
right?
But I don't talk to him about his work, ever, ever.
No, because you don't have to talk to him about his work because you know what he's doing because you've told him what to do.
Absolutely.
You've directed it.
Folks, the law offices of Steve Kidder. Let Steve Kidder help you navigate the tumultuous waters around downtown at the
He'll
courthouse.
direct you through the courthouse.
He can
legal
help
system.
you. After you win your lawsuit, go to Adsenhofer. Get a new Chevy. See the USA in a Chevrolet. Adsenhofer since
Or a Mazda,
1926.
Mitsubishi. Their new CX-50 apparently has some pretty good off-road capabilities. I've seen some ads popping up for the 2024 Mazda CX-50, a little mid-size SUV. But a little bit more, they've got a more off-road worthy version.
Nice.
Yeah, trying to compete with the Nissan Pathfinder, I think.
Take it to AJ's Detailing. Let them.
Absolutely, once you do.
Clean it up, seal it. Polyurethane? No, ceramic.
Ceramic.
Get by and see them. Astros update brought to you by the folks at First State Bank Louise.
Astros get a win last night.
3-1, just like you drew it up. Tucker has an RBI and scores. 2-1, Astros lead. Top of the ninth. Bregman hits a home run. Little insurance run.
Four games back of
And
the
then,
off night off. Texas Rangers. Rangers have won 6 in a row heading to that series with the Dodgers tonight.
they're going to lose
3-game
them all.
set.
They're going to lose them all.
Astros,
This
they
is
win
time.
3-1, and I get it. They probably faced Oakland's number 1 pitcher.
Was it not 3-2? Did Presley give up a home
I
run?
think it was 3-1.
It may have been.
But regardless, this is a weekend where you've got to really pound the Oakland A's. They're terrible. Everybody else, even mediocre teams, are kicking the crap out of them. You need to set a statement to the Rangers that
We're here.
you're here and we mean business. You eke out a bunch of 2-run, 1-run wins over the A's, you're not really going to put a lot of fear into the Rangers. But if you can hammer the A's and gain some ground, then the Rangers are going to see you in the rearview mirror because you're going to object in the rearview mirror may appear larger than it is,
Yeah, and they don't drive well.
closer than it is.
The Rangers have problems.
But this will be a fun weekend if you're a Rangers fan and an Astros fan, just to see how close this race gets. I will say that.
Let's take this phone call right here. Andy, get in here.
Astros update brought to you by the fine folks at First State Bank, the friendliest bank anywhere.
There you go. Hang on. Good morning. There's Emmett Alvarez. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
I'm
Good.
good. I'm good. What's happening in your world?
Oh,
They're no
you
good.
know, there's so much going on. I don't know if I'm coming or going.
Sound like you might have a little bit of a cold or something, Emmett. You
I've
Sound
got
a-
some drainage.
Are
I've
you-
got some drainage this morning.
sound a little stuffy.
I hope you don't mind. I figured if it was COVID, I didn't want to show up and contaminate you boys.
Well, we appreciate that. But we've been contaminated with so much over the years.
Yeah. There ain't nothing going to kill you guys if y'all are still alive.
If we're not alive, something has killed us.
Yeah.
Say hi to Andy Rokovich. We've got Andy in the studio today,
Hey, yeah.
and I just put him on our set here, so we
Put
can
his headphones on so you
just
can hear.
kick around the concept of school board. See where we're
Good
at.
morning,
with-
Andy.
Good morning.
We were going at it last night
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit. I finally conked out. I couldn't go anymore.
Yeah, it gets
You
late.
wore me out, dude. At 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. The victor, whoever wears out the other guy, wins.
This isn't a floor match here.
All right. We're going to do a little shuffling. We're going to get you over here, Andy. We're going to put Carter back here,
Yes.
and then we'll get back to normal, and it'll flow better.
All right.
All right, because those headphones are working. So we'll have to figure out what's going on with those ones, but a little bit of technical difficulties here. Bear with us here for a minute, Emmett, but
Yeah.
this will
Yeah,
be better.
Crowded in there, I know.
Yeah. So good. Those ones are working. We got Andy where he needs to be, Emmett where he needs to be.
Emmett's good. Emmett's used to being on the Bill Posey show on Friday. We refer to Friday as Mexican Day, and Emmett's usually in here, or Democrat Day. In this case, Emmett checks 2 boxes, which makes him very useful. And
Well, what would a life in America be without a Mexican?
right a day with that's
I
a
thought you were going to
great
say a Democrat. Oh, man.
right.
And y'all would be nowhere, if you didn't have Democrats. And I used to say that Bill Clinton made Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. Trump gave him the Medal of Freedom.
Absolutely. Just like
Island's
Trump's
fun.
making all the left wing talk shows now.
Hey, between
I can't.
between you two guys, give us just the Cliff's notes of the 6 questions that the VISD
Well,
wants you to.
let's start simpler. Why do you want to fill the unexpired term of Estela de los Santos? Let's start with Andy, since we've heard mostly from Emmett so far.
Okay. Well, I got 2 goals, really. One of them, which is a really big one, is kind of to bridge the gap between the community and what happens at the school board. You know, Emmett's pointed out that he knows a lot of the minutia, a lot of the fine-tuned budget things that requires the state and all of that, and the community doesn't, right? So we need people on that board that's going to get in there, learn that stuff, and put it out there. But more than just the state minutia, how are we actually spending our dollars, you know, in VISD? When we have an oven go out, you know, who's doing that? Do we have warranties on them? Is anything checked? You know, as business owners, you know, here, we all know that those kind of things can snowball out of control. And they are an issue of, you know, good staff, like you mentioned on the Paxton. You know, if you have an inept staff, we can't get anything done. But this staff is paid for by our community and by our tax dollars, so we really do have a duty to look in that and make sure all of that's adequate. The second one, besides bridging the gap with the community, is also related to finances. I believe everyone when they say the cliches. We're here for education. We're here for the students. We want them to get to college, to have, you know, more opportunities. But we forget the basics of that, which again comes down to money. When we waste our money, we can't afford to pay our teachers. We should have a budget surplus, but we don't. And I can't sit here today and tell you why, because no one in our board has ever brought that stuff to our attention. Nothing's really done out in the open. So I want to get in there to be able to look at that and bring that to us so that as a community, we can make these decisions. When it comes to schooling and what curriculum we should do, that's something I would have to rely on the board and lean on them, their experience, their education. Because I would have one focus, which would be to help clean up the books so that they can spend money on education and outcomes.
There you go. Emmett, what is driving you to be involved in the school board?
Well, you know, I declared the last time I ran I wasn't going to run anymore. And I hadn't forgotten.
Yes, sir. And we told you that you were wrong then, didn't we, sir?
Yeah, you just can't get it out of your system.
Right.
But no, I mean, who would have expected Dr. De Los Santos to retire or resign? You know, 2/3 into her term, but she had her reasons, and we certainly appreciate what she's done all these many years. But that's been my issue also, that there's been a group think and you know, you go to these meetings, the school board meetings, and all you ever hear from is administration. Rarely do you hear from the board. I just can't imagine that they're that well prepared. Of course, if you've been there that many years, I suppose it's all, you know, repeat, rinse, repeat. But, you know, the questions seem to not be asked. And he's right. You know, there are a lot of issues, or I guess questions out in the community sometimes. And, you know, every now and then it peaks. You know, you've got a controversy or something, and people get interested or concerned. But, you know, a lot of times you go to these meetings and there's hardly anybody in the audience. They're hard to sit through sometimes.
Not sometimes, all the time.
Yeah, no,
I'll
they're
be honest.
painful. What are they wanting you guys?
I've had to cover school board beats when I was you know, a reporter, and they are not fun meetings.
So, Andy, what kind of questions are they wanting you to answer at this meeting?
It's our understanding they gave you some questions ahead of time to prepare for. They gave you homework, which is fitting of a school board.
I suppose.
What do they want you to do, though? What kind of mental hoop are they trying to get you to jump through?
Well, a couple of them are okay. They lean more towards trying to find out how we would interact with them as members, which to me are very inappropriate questions. You know, how would I?
Shouldn't they want to know how you want to interact or represent your district?
Yeah, that's so.
But instead, it's like, are you going to play well with us because we're already here? Is it those kind of questions?
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't want to give too much away, but those
Yeah.
questions aren't, I don't intend on answering those questions.
Right. There you go. Emmett, do you feel the same way, sir? I mean,
Well,
you've been paneled and probed and,
I've been around the block a few times, and I started looking at those yesterday when they came out, and I said, God, they're kind of almost the same question series of things they asked in the application, and I had already answered them in my response. So if you get a chance to read my one-page pieces there, they're kind of embedded in my answers already. But
right.
It's I don't know if they're secret. They were emailed to us, Andy. I don't know.
No, they're not secret. We're gonna have 2 minutes for each question, and I plan on spending 15 seconds on there.
There you go.
And you don't want to give your answers here because then everybody will hear them and the board. I mean, keep it fresh.
Why would you want to share it with us where there's thousands of listeners that are actually in the community that we're wanting to serve? Don't share it with us. Wait and share it with
save
those
it for the 4 people in the audience, and that'll be the 4 people running.
I want to be totally transparent and represent the community, but I'm not telling you what I'm thinking. I'm saving it for the 4 boneheads that are going to be there.
Yeah, well,
if you want me to answer one of the questions I have that I'm going to interject, that would be better.
Sure,
I just wondered what questions they asked. If
it's a 6-1 vote, would you stand up and vote? That one, if that's your opinion.
I think the answer should be a resounding yes. I will vote my yes.
I think it should be depends on what the issue is, and I mean I would think you want to. Well, I'll let Andy answer. I'm not running.
He's a communist.
I'm not running for this.
It's a completely loaded question to ask if you'll stand up against them. Which not only is it a yes, but I would push you guys to come to this side. It's not just I would vote. That's not the job. If you're all on my side, I'll still push the community to be on this side.
Right.
This has nothing to do with whether there's 5 or 6 or 2 or 3. Like, that's just nonsense question.
Yeah. There you go. I guarantee you Mr. Alvarez feels roughly the same.
Well, I've been at the end of many of those type of votes myself, but
you were the one. You're the one.
Yeah, I was the one, and all wrath came down on me.
Yes, sir.
And it was like, really? Because I didn't go. I like to base my decisions. What are the facts? What's the evidence? What's the strong argument for why I would be the one and only. And if I don't have the facts, I don't have the evidence. Then experience, and in the end, when it's just my opinion, I always like to qualify it. In my opinion.
Yes, sir.
My opinion is
in my humble opinion.
Yeah. I like to say I think.
In my humble but accurate opinion.
I count opinions, every day. Everybody's
careful. Careful, yes, sir. Well, I think
FCC still has some authority.
If Emmett were to put out a yard sign, it should say, Emmett Alvarez, I told you so. That's what it should be. I told you so.
At the bottom to change the position you're running for.
You can have a whiteboard at the bottom, he said, just to change the position.
Yeah, but I never tell you that. I just let you figure it out for yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
James Kurth says groupthink does not lean well to an open and robust discussion process. If we all go along to just get along, it leads us down the same cliff.
Yes, sir.
I agree with it.
Unfortunately, I will stick out like a sore thumb there.
I
anticipate a lot of support.
Well, or you may not. I mean, maybe you'll get people thinking the same way you do.
I'm not looking necessarily for opinions, or Emmett knows me well enough to know this is not like a softball, but do either of you know anything about the other 2 opponents in the race? We would certainly welcome them to come and visit with us as well, but do you know anything about – I don't even know their names.
Yeah, Robles.
Adolph Robles and Bridget Sutton Marshall.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know either one of them, I don't think.
Miss Marshall is, I would say, highly qualified. Absolutely. How do I put it politely? She's on the opposite end of the political spectrum as me.
Okay.
The extreme opposite end.
Past Emmett?
Yeah,
Just-
her last post was lock him up with cuffs around him, and yeah.
Right. Right. Speaking of, we'll talk about that in a minute.
I don't know
Industrial.
either one of them. Amazingly enough, I've never. Maybe I've known Miss Marshall. I just don't ever recall. And
What does
the other
Mr.
gentleman,
Robles do here in the community? Do you know?
Adolph Robles. He's about my age, a little younger by a few months, but and I probably would recognize him if I see him.
I believe they're both professors at DC.
Oh, really? Oh, so they. I mean, historically, they're going to be somewhat leftist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe Miss Marshall works at the university. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Andy?
Mhm.
Yeah. At the University of Houston, Victoria. So Andy and I got into a discussion like that about I was called the only viable candidate, and by someone, I don't know if you want to mention his name, Andy, but
No, not really. Not the colonel.
yeah. I just said thank you. You know, I guess that was a compliment. You know, my first thought was, and that's why I encourage you to look at the applications. While Andy and I answered to the best of our ability the question that was posed to us, Miss Marshall had to interject. What was it? An 8-page resume, or some ridiculous overload of
Academia.
paperwork.
It's academia,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Listing all your accomplishments. I did good in Little League.
Right.
Yeah, I've got an 8-page resume, but sometimes I'm kind of embarrassed to put it out there. Who's going to read it first of all?
All you have to say is I'm married to Janie Alvarez, and that ought to shut him up.
That's all it takes, man.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
telling you.
Yes, sir.
And,
She's checked in this morning. Good morning, ma'am.
So I'm not sure, what he meant by viable, what his political persuasion was, or quite honestly, I'm the only viable. No, not necessarily. I think everybody brings something to the table. Andy and Mr. Robles, I believe is his name, and Miss Marshall, certainly.
Yeah.
I just hope that the board will look at us and what our merits are, what our qualifications. Were we responsive to the application? The questions, again, you can. They're so simplistic. Yes and no answers could be appropriate, or you could expound on them for minutes on end. But I just trying to find it unusual, this process. But that was one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and apply, because it was not election perspective.
Both you gentlemen are my friends, and I'll say with respect, honestly, I don't think either one of you have a chance. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't even know the other candidates.
Yeah.
The reason being, Emmett, you're too fiscally responsible. You're too, well, wait a minute. Let's just don't do that just because we've always done it. Andy's saying the same thing. Let's don't do that because we've always done it. Let's engage the community. What should we do here? I don't think if I'm on the school board, I feel like I have the answers. I don't want to invite somebody in that's going to question my path. Why would they invite you guys in, either one of you? Why would they say, let's get Emmett? I mean, Emmett's got some responsibility, and he's got a history with big budgets. Let's get him in here and let him help us.
Yeah.
That level of humility doesn't exist among elected people.
And you hit the nail on the head. That really is why I decided at the last minute, with 3 minutes left on the clock, to put in the application, is because they don't have any options, right? Like you named it. Who are they? Are they going to choose, a UHV professor that's going to come in and just do things that way and not even look at running this as a business at all? Or you're going to have someone that does want to come in and look at you. Now they're in a hard spot. Which direction are they going to go? Are they going to take us to the left? Or are they going to take us to their only two options, which is we're going to look at the numbers?
No, see, I agree.
So that's the reason I'm here.
Emmett, I would
don't
think that
anticipate
your
winning.
background and fiscal responsibility would be intimidating to a board that has to choose you. And Andy, your willingness to ask questions, both of you interchangeable in this regard. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat. Interchangeable ideologies to me. And
I think goals. I would say we would have interchangeable goals.
Yeah, I don't
find
know.
out. I don't have the answers.
Listening to both of you right now, I don't sense that there's much different and I'm not trying to say that, you know, one way or the other, bad or good, but you both seem to have a similar, just my synopsis. You both seem to have a similar goal here as far as wanting some accountability, transparency, and to get the people more involved in the process, which is kind of where, as we've watched this across the country, school boards have not wanted the people to be part of the process
That's
anymore.
exactly what I was saying.
Yes.
Why invite that in? Brian Small says, I'm voting for Adolf, but he's in Bedford, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Well,
James
and
Kerr says this is like Survivor
and the
when it
board's
comes to
voting.
elected positions.
Yeah, that's also indicative of the failed bond elections the school district has had.
Which one?
There's
All of
no,
them.
there's
The UHV
Yeah.
one passed.
Oh, these
they clearly need a lot of work in the facility side of it, and maintenance, etc. But the taxpayers aren't willing to give them that money.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I was so for that bond to redo our stadium and our athletic facilities. I was so for it. And then when I actually looked at it before the vote came, I was so disappointed at the waste, the abuse in that, you know, asking us for money to build something, and it's 50% waste.
Right.
You can't do it. But
It
I
went,
would have.
It went beyond the pale. It really cut into their argument, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it went from me supporting it to me actively going against it.
Scott Tonka
Signs
says,
everywhere.
don't say bond. That's a trigger for me.
Yeah, his feelings get
He
hurt.
just got his feelings hurt.
Yeah. And you know, you bring something else, and we've talked about this probably ad nauseum on this show, but a lot of people, you know, that I talked to were for that bond. It obviously didn't pass, but
I was for it.
when I was too, when the 11-cent tax grab post Harvey, and they didn't walk it back, and they went for it just because they could, that turned off the bulk of this community from supporting the district with bonds, is because they just felt that they were so out of touch.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
remember,
I saw a $800,000 ticket booth for the stadium. And said,
Brian,
"No,
it wasn't the
I'll build you one for $10,000.
concession stand ovens. It was the extended warranties for the concession stand ovens.
no, it was the ticket booths. They were 80,000 a piece, and they wanted 3 of them. And I'm like, really? 3
No,
of
they were
them?
800,000.
$250,000 worth of ticket
800,000.
booths
You never
collect-
sell that many tickets.
to sell $10,000
No, they were
worth of tickets.
80,000 a piece. But you know, but again, if the school board wants to have, you know, be trusted and at one point make another appeal to the community for a much needed bond, you know, we need to let the community drive that decision. I was very impressed the way the Victoria College went after their bond, although it was very small, but it was still, you know, quite a few millions. But they really engaged the community and used a lot of, you know, the well-known, more respected folks in the community to support that bond.
I was very proud of the way that they raised
Well,
about
they raised 3/4
2/3 of the money, 3/4 of the money themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if not for inflation, they wouldn't have had to go to the voters. They explained that too. That if not for the
Right.
you know, inflationary issues that we have and the pressures, they would not have had to go to the public for the bond, because they would have had all the money that they needed. So there were some issues there. And I know the VISD has a fundraising foundation. Probably would have to change the scope of that foundation to help raise money towards a bond, but I think they've changed the scope of that foundation a couple of times, so why couldn't they?
when is the decision going to be made? When is the meeting?
Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
This Tuesday. So, folks, you know,
Yeah,
I would encourage you to talk to your board members, get to know the candidates, and say, hey, this is who I'm supporting. this is who you should support. You're in my district. This is who I want to see you working with on the board. District 2, get out there for those of you in the district. Hopefully all 4 of you live in the district.
Right?
Yeah.
And,
they check that box when you turn in your paperwork.
So that's the Emmett Alvarez rule.
I check my box many times, believe me, unless they move the lines. But, yeah, it's at 5:30, guys. It's a little unusual. Earlier time, I was told, was 5:30. Double check.
Yeah, it's going to be a little
There
while.
will be an opportunity for.
So they really want nobody to show up to this one.
They don't want anybody there.
Well, and that's going to be the bigger question and the bigger answer. Does the school board want to keep doing the same thing they've been doing with the same results over and over, or do they want to bring in seriously some more new blood with, that's a little bit more diversified in the knowledge of the community, skill sets? I think Andy's got some great skill sets that, I don't have. I may have some that he doesn't. They've got at least 2 of us that bring quite a bit to the board.
Emmett Alvarez, stop the insanity. Quit doing the same thing over and over again.
I was reminded of, is we getting back on the crazy train again?
Yes, sir.
We might be.
Emmett, appreciate it. We'll give Andy the
it's
last
top
word
of
here,
the
but
hour.
appreciate that, Emmett.
Yeah.
We're top of the
Emmett,
hour. So, Andy,
we love you, sir. Thanks for calling in.
Last final plea to the board members that I know are probably listening or watching.
Yeah, well, I just don't want them to be scared of looking in this down into the nitty gritty. I think I was a little confusing earlier when I mentioned warranties. Where I come from, the restaurant industry, it's a huge thing. We have 50% of our worth tied up in equipment. So if you don't track those things and you lose out on warranties, you can lose $50,000.
Right.
Well, but I know
And
where
that
you were going
compounds on
because
itself when you have millions of dollars of kitchen equipment. So
Absolutely.
and
I
multi-million-dollar
try and stay in my lane
facilities
of the
that they
things
haven't kept up with over the years. I mean, that became very apparent in the last couple of bonds.
Who's
Right?
tracking these? How's it tracked? Inventory is massive for VISD.
No
How
doubt.
much property they have.
We got 14,000 students. Masaminos.
641 square miles. Excellence.
This is Dr. J. I hope you
Thank
have
you,
a
guys.
VISD day.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it for
Andy.
stopping by.
Thank you, sir. You're free to remove the headset and hang around. Folks, we appreciate you indulging Wade and Carter this week. Ash will be gone next week. I'll be in.
I think I should be able to at least co-pilot via the phone on a couple of days next week.
Life will
while
be
I'm
fine.
vacation.
Junior's not on a cruise.
No.
Everything will be fine. Real quick shout out. We'll be very brief here, but Armor Air, White Trash Services, USA Concrete Coating, Went Services, all these service companies, all designed to make your day better. White Trash at 550-1826. Armor Air at 579-0966. USA Concrete at 578-HOME. Call Went Generators for full service turnkey generator service. So we're going to get out of town today. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Be safe. Know that we love you. Watch the roads. Watch out for each other. God bless, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Bye, folks.